Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's another episode of reviews, and today we're going to be talking about The Penguin. This was a limited release series in 2024. It got some well-deserving Emmys. Cristin Milotti and I believe Collin Farrell both won their own awards. The reason I wanted to talk about The Penguin today is because through being a superhero-esque TV show that has the ability to be critically acclaimed and studied.
Now, for those of you guys who haven't seen The Batman before, you might want some background context before we hop into the show.
Matt Reeves' The Batman. It was released in March 4th, 2022. And throughout the movie, we're following a young Robert Pattinson Batman through his second year of crime fighting and detective work. We don't see any overplayed origin stories. It's straight to the point. There's a murderer in Gotham loose. The Riddler, he's crazy. He blows up walls, floods the city. And cinematographer Greg Fraser does a great job setting the scene of grime and filth that is plaguing Gotham streets. The extent of corrupt officials, the murder of the Don of the Falcone family, Carmine Falcone, and like I mentioned, the bombs and consequential flooding committed by the Riddler, which eventually all leads to a power vacuum for crime, enveloped by political restructuring, city flooding, and poverty, which is the scene we're catapulted into at the start of The Penguin. So at the end of the movie, we're seeing this monologue. Robert Pattinson's talking about this. He knows there's going to be a power grab. He knows people are going to be fighting for the top, fighting for top of the food chain. And this is the sort of thesis we're exposed to, or that it seems like we're exposed to at the start of The Penguin. Oswald Cobblepot, played by Colin Farrell. Throughout the series, he's establishing his credibility and character image. His ethos is built largely through his appearance. Throughout the show, we see people underestimate him, undermine him because of this sort of waddle he has, which is the reason he's given the nickname the Penguin. He's got disfigurement and scarring on his face. And through all that, throughout the show, he cares about what he's wearing, how he's dressed, how he talks, and what he needs to do to survive. And that's sort of where you get the credibility from that Penguin is not an ordinary guy. He's not necessarily the kind of guy that you may want to mess with. So, like I said, his suits, speech patterns, and confidence, it mirrors the self-made man archetype, that sort of almost toxic masculinity, but in a very Sopranos way. He also crafts a persona to gain respect from gangsters and civilians alike. So he has this name, Oswald Cobblepot, and even if people haven't heard of him yet, by the time he's done talking to them, he becomes a notorious figure in their eyes. So he's definitely not the average guy. He's got a little sadism, and we even get to see that later into the show. He presses Councilman Haiti about restoring power in Crown Point. After Councilman Haiti meets Oz for the first time, and then we get to see him later in the courthouse, we know that Haiti has this understanding that Oswald's not really a guy to mess around with. He's not a guy you want going against you. A really big part of the Penguin and why it works is the use of emotional appeal and manipulation from Oz Cobb and even from the directors of the show itself. Penguin, we see him evoking sympathy and rage throughout the story, and he's constantly playing the victim of elite corruption. We see multitudes of trauma flashbacks and emotional tone to humanize Oz in our eyes while still framing him as dangerous. So throughout the show, we're rooting for Oswald, even though we know he's a criminal, because it feels like we can relate to him more than anybody else. His rhetoric plays on resentment. When they're meeting at the Golden Summit, he uses this line, "They look down on us," and he's talking to Donnie Boy about how his family built the bridge, but it's got the Wayne family on it. And he's trying to almost inspire these people, but manipulate them in a way that benefits him. He builds his loyalty with his crew by channeling shared anger. And we see this a lot in Victor. And the biggest part of the emotional appeal and manipulation we get to see throughout the show is when we're first introduced to Victor, it it adds this human element to Oswald because we're following along this very relatable guy, Victor, good guy, never into any of this sort of life that Oswald is. But by the end of the show, we obviously see something happen to Victor, which ruins Oswald in our eyes and takes away his humanizing factors. So taking into account all of this information, Penguin seizes the kairotic moment, timing his rise when chaos and need intersect, the chaos of Gotham's power vacuum and the need for Penguin to silence doubters, silence people who disrespect him. And the Penguin and in turn the Batman uses some of these ideas to comment on real world charisma, leadership, and moral decay, especially in political offices. So the Penguin's rhetoric transforms Gotham's underworld through manipulation, empathy, and timing. At the start of the show, it's a fairly ordered mob underworld compared to what we see at the end. There's specific families that are in charge of specific things, but we see Penguin run through all of these obstacles, and by the end, he's the only big player left standing. Ethos and pathos helps create this relatability to the Penguin, which is in the end what makes it work so well is this connection that you start to form with him. And on the logo side, making him persuasive, and Kairos making him unstoppable. In the end, the Penguin isn't just about power, it's about how persuasion shapes identity, leadership, and the myth of the American dream, even in a fictional city like Gotham.